Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, visit them at a Hamfest near you or call 920-435-2973 or online at pl-259.com.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday night, and that means it's Ham Talk Live time, and it's episode number 95. The Daily DX with Bernie, W3UR, recorded live on Thursday, December 28th, 2017. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight, we have Bernie McClenny, W3UR, from the Daily DX and the Weekly DX, and we'll take your calls live in just a few minutes. And last week here on the show, Emmett and Rochelle Onassi from Radio Waves were here to talk about some antennas and the USS Batfish special event station and all kinds of things. So if you missed that last week, make sure you listen. You can do that anytime at hamtalklive.com, or you can listen to the podcast version over on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeart Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud, or your favorite app, and also over on YouTube. So get your questions ready to go after the interview. We're going to be talking some DX tonight. You can give us a call. Let me go ahead and give you the phone number. It's not time to call yet, but I'll give you the phone number so you have it ready to go. It's 812-NET-HAM-1, 812-638-4261, and I'll let you know when it's time to call. You can also call us using Skype. We're Ham Talk Live on Skype if you'd rather use it that way. And we also are on Twitter, so you can send us a question on Twitter, and our Twitter handle is at Ham Talk Live as well. So I'll be back with Bernie right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you in part by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's Dime store since 1978. When you need connectors, mobile and handheld antennas, cables, or adapters, visit Scott or Jill at a Hamfest near you. Or you can order online at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and N connectors, SMA adapters, audio cables, soldering supplies, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated N connectors are even used on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics carries MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro products. And don't miss their 0% off sale going on now. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
You're listening to Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp. Yesterday, my XYL said she'd leave me if I didn't give up ham radio. Over.
And thanks to Scott and Jill over at Tower Electronics for helping bring Ham Talk Live your direction this evening. They'll be back on the Hamfest tour soon. Right now they're taking a little break, but we've got their schedule coming up soon for the Ham Fests in the spring, and even in January some down in Florida. So give them a call if you're not going to be around one of those shows. It's 920-435-2973, or you can visit them on their website at pl-259.com. Tell them you heard it on Ham Talk Live. Tonight we have a very special guest, Bernie McClenny. He was first licensed as W3UR in September of 1977 and quickly became interested in working DX. He became a member of the ARRL DXCC honor roll at the age of 27. He obtained his current call sign, W3UR, in 1996. And in March 1997, Bernie started the first daily email DX bulletin called the Daily DX. In the summer of the following year, he became the editor of QST's How's DX column, and in 2001, he purchased the 599 DX report and renamed it the Weekly DX. He's operated from 2 all-time new DXCC counters, E44 Delta X-ray in Gaza, Palestine, and 4W/W3UR in Baucau, East Timor. And other DXpeditions include A61, AJ, and AH3D, OH0/W3UR, VU4AN, YU8/OH2R, that's Kosovo, and 8P9UR, and J77A. He's also been a guest stop multiple times at 4U1 United Nations. And when not writing or on DXpeditions, Bernie can often be found on the air chasing what else but some DX, working on his DXCC challenge. So, Bernie, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Well, thank you, Neil, and good evening.
Yeah, we wanted to talk some DX tonight, and I want to start off with some tips for working DX, and we talk about DX on the show quite often, and have some of the DXpedition crews come on and talk about it, and always ask what's your tips for getting in the log. And so we'd like to hear some of your tips about working DX, and also some ideas on trying to get DXCC on a budget. If you don't have, the money for, an ICOM 7851 or a Kenwood TS 990, how do you suggest that somebody on a limited budget would be able to get DXCC? So let's hear about that.
Well, first of all, I would say, at least for the newer amateur radio operators, to don't be afraid to get on the air on the HF bands, and 6 meters for that matter. Don't be afraid and jump into the pileup. Obviously, you're going to want to listen before you start calling a DX station, but don't be afraid. It's a great opportunity to learn. You're going to make mistakes occasionally, and that's okay. Some of the other things you would want to do is to know what DXpeditions are currently on the air, or when future DX operations are expected. Some of the ways to do that would be to read DX publications such as QST, CQ Magazine, the DX Bull, integrate the DX cluster network into, get one that you're comfortable with. There's, especially with integrating it to the DX cluster, you want to be able to take spots for certain bands or certain modes. Maybe you want to not take spots from U.S. stations. There's, with the different logging programs, there are ways to change those parameters to make the best use of the DX cluster. Another tip I would say is, especially for new DXers or even guys that are chasing countries for the challenge, is to get on for the DX contest. There's multiple DX contests that happen over the 52 week cycle. Some of the best ones, obviously, are the CQ Worldwides, the Russian contest in March, the WPXs, and even some of the single band DX contests. But especially the week leading up to the contest is an absolute great time to get on the air, especially if you have a low power or you're a new DXer. You can get in there and work these stations as they're setting up their stations and testing out their antennas just before the contest.
Yeah, that's a very good tip because we do a contest. Well, it's not officially a contest, but we treat it as such, called School Club Roundup at school, and it's Monday through Friday, but it's always right before either Jamboree on the Air or CQ Worldwide in October, and everybody's tuning up for that. And so we get a lot of contacts, especially on Fridays, right before, it starts, because everybody's checking the gear out, making sure everything's working, and you can snag some of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, as far as, a DXCC on a budget, by all means, I don't know exactly what that budget would be, but I would say put your money in either a tower or an antenna first. And I say first, and I mean before you get an amplifier. If you can't hear the DX station, there's you're just wasting your time. The higher your antenna is, the better. And like I said, I would put my money. I'd rather have 100 watts with a dipole at 100 feet or 50 feet or whatever, than having an amplifier and a dipole at 20 or 30 feet. There's a whale of a difference, just being able to get up as high as you possibly can. So I would do that definitely before investing any money in an amplifier.
It's been kind of my experience, at least, that the amplifier is just going to get you through the pileups better. That it's not always going to make the difference in whether you are actually heard or not. It's whether you can get through the pileup or not.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. There's if your timing is right and you're skilled, there are a lot of guys with 100 watts that can get through. They call it the right time, and they can get through and beat the guys with the kilowatts. So a lot of it is skill, and also just being able to hear what's going on and to hear the DX station coming back to you.
Yep, I totally agree. Well, let's talk about some upcoming DX opportunities that our listeners might be interested in. We've got a couple of DXpeditions that we're watching pretty close here on this show, as we've had them on for some updates, and hopefully we'll be talking to some of them while they're on the trip even. So if everything works out right anyway. So we're hoping for that. We don't know that's going to happen just yet, but we're working on it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some DX coming up here in the next few months?
Okay, well, what I did was I've got a short range, like as in this, the next 7 days or so, and then I've got something a little further out, longer range stuff. But at the moment, some interesting ones that I'm aware of that I thought your listeners might be interested in were there's actually two 9X stations from Rwanda, a 9X0TA and 9X9PJ. Both of them are somewhat active for the U.S. listeners. They'll want to try in their afternoon or early afternoon, early evening, either on 15, 17, or 20 meter sideband. In fact, 9X9PJ called me a couple of weeks ago. I just happened to be calling CQDX, and he came right back to me. There's a bunch of C5 stations now active. That hasn't been on, I don't think, all year, but C56RU, C5WP, and Charlie 5 Yankee Kilo, all from the Gambia. Also, about a week ago, H-44DA showed up from the Solomon Islands. And I believe in the next day or so, J-53 Echo Charlie from Guinea-Bissau should be on. JD-1 Bravo Mike Hotel from Ogasawara is currently on for another day or two. He's very active on CW and RTTY. And then in the next, let's see, I think the 30th, two European guys are headed over to Tunisia, and they're going to operate from an island off the coast of Tunisia. They're going to be at 3 Victor 8 Charlie, Quebec. And that should be an easy one to work, and it should be an easy one also to get a QSL card out of. So those are the short range, between now and the next the new year. You want me to go ahead and start off with some of the long range stuff that's coming up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is, some of the more interesting or rarer stuff that's coming up in the next month to 6 months. A52 PD Papa Delta from Bhutan is going to be on the first and second weeks of January. Nope, there's very little activity there. There's only been one other operation, I think, this year so far from there. 6 Oscar. That's the call. It'll be that one was written up in QST. I believe that was in the January issue. 2 European fellas are headed over to Somalia, of all places. They're going to be on from January 3rd to 16th. Also over in Africa, not too far away, Echo 31 Alpha will be back on the air again from Eritrea. That's JH1 AJT Zorro and 3 or 4 other operators. They'll be there January 14 to 23. Bouvet, which is probably the one you don't want to miss, because that's going to be a long time before that one comes back on the air. It's been a long time since this one's been active, but it'll be 3Y0Z, and they're going to start around January 23rd, and they'll be active into early February. Another interesting one that's coming up at the end of January, and they'll be specifically emphasizing 160 meters, is ZC4 Alpha from the UK sovereign bases on Cyprus. That'll be the last 6 days of January. Then ON6DX is headed to Benin, TY1 Tango will be active in late February and early March. Another one that hadn't been on for about 6 years is, and I never know how to pronounce this correctly, but it's XF4. It's the island DXCC off the coast of Mexico. They'll be operating with, it'll be one guy, I believe, operating with the special call sign 4 Bravo, and that'll be the first 15 days of March. A group of Portuguese amateur radio operators are headed over to Macau. That'll be March 9 to 17. Here's another one that doesn't come on very often, maybe once every 18 to 24 months. Spratly Islands, 9 Mike 0 Whiskey, and that'll be a pretty big de-expedition with about 10 or 12 operators. That'll be from March 10 to 20. And then JG8NQJ will be back on Marcus Island, also known as Minami Torishima. He'll be signing portable JD1. And he works there on the island for about 2 or 3 months at a time and then comes home. But he'll be there from mid-March until mid-June. And then 2 more that are really interesting. St. Brandon, and this is one of the best de-expedition groups out there at this time, I'll tell you. It's the 3B7A group, a bunch of French operators, and they're young, and they're very good. You should have no problems working these guys. They'll be there from, I believe, starting about April the 5th. And then the last one that I've got for you that you've interviewed Don a couple of weeks ago is the KH1 Baker Island. They'll be signing. They just announced their call sign is going to be KH1 stroke November Hotel 7 Zulu. And they start, I believe, on June 17th and will go into early July. So those are the long and short range de-expeditions to look forward to working here in the next 6 months or so.
All right, a great list there of some great DX opportunities for everybody. So make sure you are listening for those. Some of those, like you said, are not going to happen again for quite a while, and so you may want to try to make sure to get those. So for people listening here that want this information and some of the news behind all of this and information, you have your email newsletter, the Daily DX, and you've got the website for it and Twitter for it, and then you've got the weekly DX. And so fill us in a little bit on your publications.
Okay, well, I started the Daily DX about, it was March 1997. It's basically an idea that I had. I worked for a hardware company for 15 years and kind of got burnt out. And a friend of mine, Rich Boyd, KE3Q, and I came up with this idea. And in fact, he actually came up with the name of it. But it's basically Monday through Friday. It's anywhere from 4 pages to as many as 8 pages sometimes if you print it out. You don't have to print it out because it comes electronically. But it's sent directly to your email address. You can send it to your home email address or your work email address. It's got DX News. It's got DXCC News. It's got IOTA News. A propagation forecast that's updated daily, a calendar, QSL information, miscellaneous things that are of interest to just any amateur radio operators, much less DXers and contesters. So it's all packaged together in one easy, simple to read, straight ASCII text, no graphics, just the facts. Then I also do the weekly DX. A year or two after I started, some guy said, the daily's a little bit too much for me, but how about something weekly? Well, I purchased from Bob, WB2YQH, the 599 DX report. He was getting out of the business, and he had a mailing list, and I decided, well, this is a good way to get started and have some subscribers instantly. So I purchased that in 2001. It's 4 pages, and it has some of the same information. Occasionally it's got pictures and graphics and other stories. But if anyone wants to try both of them, they can get a free 2-week trial, and that's on the website. Neil, go ahead.
And go ahead and give us the URL there too.
Okay.
So we can find it.
Yeah, it's www.dailydx.com. It's DAILYDX.com. And everything is right there. There's a link to click on to get the free 2 weeks. And really, the best time to try that free 2 weeks is either right before a big de-expedition or the CQ Worldwide or some of the big contests. It'll really show you some interesting things.
Okay, so all kinds of information available there, right to your inbox every day, Monday through Friday on the Daily DX, and then once a week from the Weekly DX, and see some tweets from you quite regularly on different de-expedition news and some things like that, so they can find you on Twitter as well. All right, well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to give you a chance to call in or write in and ask some questions of Bernie here, whether it's about his publications or just DXing in general. We'll take those questions when we come back, right after this word from the National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting, right here on Ham Talk Live.
The National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting, located in Westchester, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, is only 2 minutes off I-75. The museum is the former home of the Voice of America Bethany Relay Station. Tours are now available every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can see the control room, a 200,000-watt transmitter, and the most comprehensive collection of inventions by the iconic Powell Crosley Jr. Also on display is a huge antique radio exhibit and R.L. Drake's personal collection of most every Drake amateur rig ever made. This is a unique opportunity to see amateur radio in action and have a chance to get on the air from WC8 VOA. Admission is only $5 a person. The museum is located close to historic WLW-AM and tons of shopping and restaurants. Take a trip to the VOA Museum or visit us online at voamuseum.org.
Oh, baby, you put a 5-9 in my logbook. Now enjoy more Ham Talk Live.
Join the conversation. Call us on voice with Skype at Ham Talk Live or give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live.
Ham Talk Live's on the air every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at hamtalklive.com, and make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And it is time for your calls. We've got a couple coming in already. If you have a question for Bernie, W3UR from the Daily DX, give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Or you can Skype us. We're at Ham Talk Live, or you can tweet us at Ham Talk Live. So we're back with Bernie, W3UR from the Daily DX, and our first call is none other than Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD. So Scott, go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, Neil. Thank you. Let me wish you a Happy New Year coming up. I know this is the last program of 2017, and it's a great one to finish the year on. Congratulations. Bernie, I'm a subscriber, as you know, to your publications, and they're just amazing. I marvel at the DX news you're able to pull together. I wonder if you might share with all of us just like how many sources you have, because you really spare no efforts in trying to find any source of DX from around the globe. I'm always amazed at the great information I get, and I do appreciate your hard work at doing that. And secondly, Bernie, I wonder if you have any thoughts more on a philosophical basis about how we can get more younger people interested in DXing. That's what got me interested in ham radio many years ago, and I still like it a lot. So you're in a good position in the ham community to sort of give us advice on how to spread our interest in DXing to people who maybe don't do it.
Yeah, very good, Scott. And thanks for your support, and Happy New Year to you also. On the sources, well, I've been doing this now for coming up on 21 years, and I have about 16 or 17,000 email addresses over that time period, and so I'm able to contact guys and ask them things and see what's going on. Obviously, there are websites, and also many of the subscribers, such as yourself, send me items. The first 5 years were really tough. But since then, I think the Daily DX has made a name for itself, and people now know it is a major source of news. And if they want to get their news out to the audience or to the pileup, that's what they do. So I'm like I said, it's kind of snowballed, if you will, into a big ball of information, and sometimes there's so much it's hard to put it all together. But it happens every night. On the second question about involving youngsters, I think I don't really have an answer for that because we definitely need young blood. But one of the things that I am very impressed with is some of these DXpeditions that are inviting youngsters to come along and operate. There's a group in Ohio I'm specifically thinking of. I can't think of the guy's call right this second, but they usually take 3 or 4 guys down to the Caribbean or Central America, and they get them involved in this. So things like that I think are really, really important. Also, I believe that the Europeans are doing a really good job with getting youngsters on the air with the YOTA. They have programs both in December. They have a big activity, and then also either in June or July they've got another big activity. So those would be some of the things that I'm impressed with.
Thanks again, Bernie.
Thank you, Scott, and Happy New Year.
Thanks for calling, Scott. Happy New Year.
My pleasure.
Yep, that's the, if I'm thinking of the same one you are, it's the Dave Coulter Memorial DX Adventure.
Dave, yep.
Yeah, we have Dave's brother on sometimes from Hamvention, and so we talk about that some, and we've had some of those young hams on the show talking about that. So that's a great way to get them involved. Well, we had another call here, but we were talking to Scott, so now's the time to call. So give us a call again at 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261, and we'll keep taking your questions as long as we can. And Pat, K7LNP, just commented, great show tonight, so thank you for that, Pat, and appreciate you listening and commenting here on the show. And in fact, let me run over here to Twitter and see if we've got anything over there. But I know somebody else was trying to call in. So now's the time, 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261. And let's see here. We've got a message from Scott. And it looks like everything else is retweet. So, so give us a call. Have you heard anything on North Korea lately? That's been kind of a hot news item for a while. Have you heard anything about it lately?
No, it's been very quiet on that front, and I suspect it'll stay that way, especially given the current political situation that's going on there at this time.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Are you planning on heading out on any DXpeditions here in the next year or two?
I don't have anything specific. I'm going in late January. My wife and I are going to go to St. Kitts down to V47. I got my license about 2 or 3 weeks ago, W3UR. But outside of that, I'm just kind of laying low and listening, and if the right opportunity comes up, I might be able to go do something.
Yeah, sounds like a good trip. 812-638-4261 is the telephone number. And, Pat, K7LNP has a question here. It says, with the new FT8 craze, which is really taking off, and, boy, that's an understatement, It seems like a lot of de-expeditions are going to this mode, and Bouvet, I know, just announced that they had some special instructions for FT8, and they sent that out on a tweet and said it was very important that people read that so they know what's going on with that. So he wants your thoughts on FT8 with a couple of the de-expeditions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Currently, I keep a close eye on the spots that come out over the DX cluster network, and it's between 80 and 90% of the spots these days are on FT8, unless it's a special weekend for a contest or something. But just during the normal days, it's 80 to 90% are FT8. Lots of guys are getting on the air and using this mode, and I have not tried it yet. I've seen my neighbor use it. It's very interesting, and you got to act real quick. You got 15 seconds. But I have heard that they're working on a de-expedition mode. I hope I'm not letting any secrets out, but there is going to be a de-expedition mode for the FT8 program, and they believe they can speed up the timing between the exchanges. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if that'll happen in time for the 3Y. I don't think it will. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the 3Y is going to kind of use FT8 on the extreme end of the spectrum. In other words, 10 meters, maybe 12 meters, where the band really isn't open very far. So they may end up using that to see what they can do to work some stations they wouldn't have otherwise been able to work.
Yeah, and when we had N1DG on the show, Don, he was talking about the KH1 Baker de-expedition. He mentioned that they were working on a special de-expedition mode for that. So you weren't letting out any secrets there, but just going to be really important to get the latest news on that, so that way you know what's going on with it, and you're able to get that in. But I think both those big de-expeditions, Bouvet and Baker Island, are kind of planning on just using that as a supplement to things, and like you said, kind of using that on the extreme ends of the band where nothing else would really be feasible.
Right. I think that's what's going to happen. You're most likely not going to see it happen on 20 meters.
Yeah. Troy Simpson, W9KVR, says, in terms of working DX, we take advantage of the work bands, and glad many DX stations use those before and after contests. So you think that's another good way of catching some of those?
Absolutely. I think Troy's got it. He hit the nail on the head. The work bands, the Work 79 bands, are just fantastic place to be, especially if you've got a decent antenna. I mean, more and more people are showing up there, but it's nowhere near 20 meters or 40 meters or 80 meters or even 15 for that matter. It's a great place to go, especially if you're a CW or a digital op on the 30-meter band.
All right, very good. And we've got a caller on the line. You need to turn your volume down there if you would. Go ahead and go. All right, go ahead and ask your question here to Bernie, W3UR.
Okay, Bernie, this is Mike Davidson, N5MT. I haven't had much feedback recently because I'm one of those that got flooded here in Houston, and my station is down. We'll be moving to Louisiana soon, so I'm relying on your daily DX stuff to keep me informed about my side of the 1010 stuff that I take care of for the 1010 DX news. Anyway, the new country status of Kosovo, I believe. I haven't heard much of it recently, so get me caught up. And you've already answered my second question of where you're going for your anniversary. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's our 30th anniversary. Actually, it was last month, but we're gonna take the trip in late January and early February. But Kosovo, there's nothing really official that I can say. I'm hearing rumors that finally the powers that be are realizing this is a country and it's time to add it to the DXCC list. And that's all I can really say at this time. I think we may hear more on this probably in the next month or two, I suspect.
Okay. Have they met all of the qualifications, and it just needs to be maybe one final say-so, and that's about it, you think?
No, it does not meet the current criteria.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. Got one other little trivia piece for you. You know that I'm the DX editor, and there's still about 30 countries that have never had DXCC for 1010. And I suspect that there never will be, just because of uninhabited places, and it takes a de-expedition person to go there. And it's just something that will never probably happen. A little piece of trivia for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I suspect one of them is BS7.
That's correct. Yes, it's true. Well, plus, like Mount Athos, the Monk Apollo is not a 1010 member, and he's the only one allowed to operate. It's going to be like that, but any which way. Anyway, have a good time down on your anniversary, and we'll when I get a station I'm going to move over to Louisiana, I think, and it'll take me a while to get set up, but I'll be using a remote station from a friend here in Houston to try to keep informed.
Okay, Mike. Good to talk to you, and I'm sorry about the flooding situation there. That was really devastating, I know. And thanks for all your support.
Roger. And Neil, I'm not used to your regular name. I'm still thinking of Rusty.
Oh boy, he's really pulling it out there. That's still, there's still few family members that call me that, but that's been about it. But yeah, that's it. That's right.
Well, yep. When you're that young to get your ham ticket, that's significant. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
All right, Mike. Thanks for calling so much. All right. Well, we're just about out of time, Bertie, but thank you for taking the calls, and glad we had some here for you tonight. And Troy, W9KVR again, says we're really glad that the Daily DX has QSL info. Troy does the same thing I do with the school club, and so his students enjoy getting all those cards. So we appreciate all of that. So remind us again how you can subscribe.
Yep, that's www.dailydx.com, and there's a page there for the calendar, for a free 2-week trial, for subscribing. There's also QSL information and a whole bunch of other helpful links.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate the opportunity, and want to wish you and all your listeners a happy new year, and go work some DX in 2018.
All right. There you have it. That's a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. Thanks to my guest, Bernie McClenny, W3UR from the Daily DX, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening and calling in. And we invite you back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. For a list of our upcoming guests, just go to hamtalklive.com, click on the schedule link. And so for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9 VPG, saying 7375, and
this is Les Nessman saying good day, and may the good be yours.
This has been the Early News with Les Nessman.